We're joined now by Tim Verghese from Inside Nebraska. What's up, Tim?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Tim, how we doing, buddy?
Hey, not too bad, not too bad. How about yourself?
All right, good. I was a week early on my question of who's going to be this year's. We should have got him comparison guy. I said Darian Jones, but apparently it's going to be Jett Thomalla. It's a week early. It's like so weird. Like we get the offer from Bama, and all of a sudden, how'd the old message board take it? TV, was it like? Are we making comparisons yet? Like, what's the chatter? So you've only had about 18 hours to digest it.
Yeah, I mean, we started to see some of it too when Ohio State showed some interest. They saw him throw. I still could see Ohio State offering. They don't have a 26 quarterback yet. They've done this before where, they land their guy the cycle. They landed Tavian St. Clair last year. They land their guy in a cycle before and allows them to kind of take a swing the next cycle. They did it with Lincoln Kienholz a couple years ago, and now, they have a chance to do this again in 2026. But yeah, I mean, the reaction around here is it's just kind of just not confusion. I don't know. It's weird because it's like, again, like objectively looking at the tape, Thomalla has more production than Dayton Raiola. Thomalla has, probably more encouraging long-term traits than Raiola. But I think there's also just a general understanding of, okay, well, 2026, Nebraska, took Dayton. That's kind of what they're doing. 27 is ultimately the cycle. They have to address quarterback, and they did that. I think if Nebraska didn't have Trey Taylor committed, I think you'd see people a little more up in arms about what's happening right now. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things where, I mean, if these offers continue to pile up, it's going to be one of those things where, I mean, people in state are going to start looking around and being like, okay, I mean, is Nebraska going to like show interest, or are they just going to be fine with this guy leaving the state?
I hope we get this out of our system soon because as Braylon Warren continues to rack them up and there's the 2-year gap between the two, I'm just hoping Nebraska football wins enough games at the quarterback spot because the offers are only gonna continue to stack for these guys.
Right, absolutely. I mean, with Braylon too, it's like the run is already happening for him. And again, if you saw him in the fall, you knew this was coming. Like this,
I mean,
it's
shoot, he
not,
just
it's not.
bagged two more. He just bagged two more yesterday.
Yeah, Michigan State and who else?
Yeah,
I almost said Oregon, and it's not Oregon.
it
Michigan
was
State.
Virginia, Cal, and then
Yeah,
Michigan State.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So how about that?
Yeah, so I just, Tim, I kind of looked at it, and I'll be honest, I was high on Jett Thomalla last year and before he really had the offers or anything like that. But I understood even at the time, okay, you go, yeah, obviously you have Dylan Raiola as in his class in 24. You get TJ Lateef in 25. You've got Trey Taylor in 27, which I understand is recent. Like it always sort of seemed like to me 26 quarterback wasn't necessarily going to be the most high profile priority. Like I don't how much of that I know you kind of talked about the way Ohio State staggers their quarterbacks, but I don't know. It just really I'm happy for Jett. It doesn't really bother me for Nebraska.
Right, and I understand that too because I mean also like I think zooming out and understanding the timeline of all these QBs is important too. Like with Dylan, we got Dylan for Nebraska got Dylan for at least two more seasons, maybe three, and then behind him it's you've got TJ Lateef developing in the background. And TJ is a little further ahead than expected. Can probably play some games by year two if he needed to. Probably wouldn't have to, but if he needed to, could. You've got Marcus Davila. That's your like okay, this is the guy we can stash, we can develop, we can really work on. It's Dana's guy. And then you've got Trey, who in 27, we'll see how he physically develops in high school, but likely needs a year of physical development before he's ready to play at the college level. And so when you take all that into account, and like when Trey's coming in, when the next time Nebraska is going to have a QB battle is at the earliest 2027. And I don't think Jett Thomalla is going to be ready by 2027. I think Jett Thomalla is a very talented quarterback. I think he's got like legitimately elite upside traits. I think there's a lot you love on his tape. But I think he's a guy that for the Big Ten and for the SEC level specifically is going to need some time to develop. I think Alabama understands that. I don't think Alabama offered with the intention of that guy's going to come in and start within the first 2 years. They're long-term starters on campus. It's Keelan Russell, the guy they landed last cycle out of Duncanville, Texas.
So speaking of a week early, level of surprise that Ja'Cory Smith already committed to Oklahoma.
Uh, it's not necessarily surprising just because they were the team with the momentum, but I'm surprised he didn't give Nebraska the chance. I thought Ravi did a really good job this spring of getting Nebraska in the mix. He just went down and visited him at Bryant. That visit went really well. He's a fan of Dvorak. Nebraska this cycle has, outside of Jordan Campbell, really had trouble getting some of these linebacker targets on not trouble, but really had like Dvorak does a really good job building relationships. Like Smith was one where he talked about how strong the relationship with Dvorak was. Tank King down in Texas, one of the top linebackers out of the state of Texas, has raved about just his relationship with Dvorak every chance I've been able to talk to him, and he just hasn't made it to campus yet, and I don't think he will. He's going to make official visits in June. He's probably going to end up at Texas A&M or Texas or Notre Dame. I think those are the three for him, really. But like Nebraska's done a good job of building these relationships, but not getting them on campus is an issue. And now you're looking at a point where, okay, at this point you've got Jace Reynolds committed, but it's kind of Jordan Campbell or bust at the linebacker position.
Tim, not to rewind it too much here, but you mentioned Trey Taylor a couple times there, and I was talking to a friend of mine in Illinois. Do you know kind of the backstory on sort of, it seems like there's some bad blood and some drama between the Taylor camp and Bielema and Illinois camp? Do you know what's going on there at all?
I mean, part of it is the commitment, but like the way that was handled. But prior to that, I don't believe there was anything. As far as I know, I don't believe there was anything. I mean, again, Illinois visited, like Arthur Sikowski visited.
The low hanging fruit is to make it about the NIL offer.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I think there's some like, okay, we invested a lot of resources in trying to keep you home. We have some momentum with in-state guys and part of that. But I mean, again, literally to the day before he committed, Illinois was putting in like legitimate effort. So I don't think there was anything like there. But I do think moving forward, I don't think Trey Taylor in Illinois is like a thing. Like, like people had talked about after that commitment of, oh, you never know what's going to happen, Trey. Why would you do that? Like, Illinois, like, Nebraska, something could happen. You could want to come back to Illinois. That's probably not happening. At this point, that's probably not happening.
I just got some news yesterday on an international product that's north of the border. He's just a pup, though, but not to be one up by a little Sweden background. What do we think about Nebraska adding to the D-line room and broadening their horizons on body types and styles?
Yeah, I mean, Sone's one of my favorite defensive linemen in this 26 class. I've been on him for a while, so I like, just for some context. I at one point I nearly took a job with Brandon Collier to go work international, like go work in Europe and just scout. And it just ultimately didn't work out. But we've maintained a relationship for a while. I really was kind of in on Sone for a while. Just because that was like the guy for him. He kept, that was the, like, he's had a bunch of guys at this point come through the college ranks, but Sone was the one that was like, whoa, like that like this is a future 5-star type player. And then he came to the United States. There was a little confusion on his age. It's a little, kind of this and that on him. We saw him at the All-American Bowl in January, and he dominated, like legit 6'5", or maybe like a shade under 6'5", 320 pounds, but he carries it incredibly well. He looks like he's 270, 280. And he's just super powerful, plays with a really good motor, has a footwork where you can tell he's got a soccer background and did some karate and martial arts, plays with good contact, like just general balance. Nebraska is making this a real fight. I got word, let's say about a month and a half ago, that this is essentially going to come down to Florida, Oklahoma, and Nebraska. And he just announced the top 8, but I do think it's going to come down to those 3. I think if anyone in that top 8 has a chance to surge, it's going to be USC or Texas, but I do think it's going to come down to those 3. Florida, for me, has the edge, but I mean, the effort Nebraska's put in these last few weeks, especially since Terry Braden's taken over this recruitment, I think he's going to give Nebraska a really good shot. Braden went by to visit him at St. George. EJ Bartel went by to visit him at St. George yesterday, while, Sone went over to, while Braden went over to Sweden to go meet with his mom. And again, as far as I can recall, this is the first time Nebraska's gone to Europe for like an in-home visit.
Yeah.
Mm. Tim, so you mentioned him playing soccer there, and it kind of got me thinking, and I apologize if I've asked you this question before. I don't think I have. We were talking to some of our athletic testing guys last week about like multi-sport athletes and things like that. And then you mentioned a defensive lineman playing soccer, and I think of Ndamukong Suh. Is there, when you're kind of evaluating these guys, is there a particular sport that if a guy plays that, you're intrigued by, and does it vary by position?
It very much varies by position. For me, like quarterback, I like to know that if there's a baseball background in there, on both sides of the line. I like to know if you're wrestling. I like to know, some guys it's unique. I mean, with international guys, you often see soccer in their background just because everyone
Mhm.
internationally plays soccer. But it's really that. And then at wide receiver, cornerback, I kind of like a basketball background. I like track, of course, with all of those skill positions as well. But yeah, I think it depends on position. Soccer isn't one like I'm like immediately stamping if I see it, but it's a good thing to have, especially for big bodies, just because it helps me like recognize that okay, you've got footwork, you've got light feet, you kind of know what you're doing in that. I mean, unless you're like a goalie, of course, but for the most part, you've got good footwork if you're playing soccer at a young age.
TV, let me ask you something. What do you think? 'Cause you spent some time, you've covered multiple schools, right? And you're familiar with the state of Texas as a whole. And we've seen Sark do it. We've seen Kiffin do it at Ole Miss. Lanning is attempting to do the same thing at Oregon. Are there traits or is there something about the culture that allows certain schools to stockpile quarterbacks more than others?
Um, it really just comes down to success and a tradition of success. Like I think you're seeing Nebraska kind of starting to do that as well, and
Quietly, they're on to something.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like I was just telling somebody the other day. I was like, okay, let's say, it does come down to success with Sark. It's just every quarterback wants to play in that offense. You listen to the way offensive coordinators at the high school position and QB coaches and everybody talks about Sark's offenses and Lane's offense. They're all very QB friendly. Lincoln Riley, at one point had the same thing. I think he just needs a bounce back year to kind of reclaim that that this is the tradition that he's had at the end of his reputation as a QB developer. But it really just comes down to that. Can you produce high level quarterbacks? And like, okay, hey, like Nebraska, for example, just getting Dylan Raiola saw a bunch of elite quarterbacks suddenly be like, okay, well, what does Nebraska have to offer that Dylan, made this decision? And then TJ made that decision. And then it was like, okay, well, what does Nebraska offer that two quarterbacks in a row made this decision? And then so Trey Taylor's now giving Nebraska a harder look. And then Nebraska lands Trey Taylor. And so now you're seeing 27 elite targets outside of the QB position being like, okay, well, what does Nebraska have to offer? If Dylan Raiola has the fall that we think he can have, like he takes another significant step forward and is one of the better quarterbacks in the Big Ten, Nebraska's already in on some top 28 quarterbacks. It wouldn't surprise me if it's like, oh, why is Jaden Wade the number one quarterback in the class of 28? Why is he on Nebraska's campus in spring? Why is this happen? Like, like that's what's going to start to happen because all of a sudden you've got guys being like, okay, well, Nebraska's doing something right at the quarterback position.
So speaking of the quarterback position, and you mentioned Sark, and so you go, I go Arch Manning, and then I think of Lenore Sellers, I think of DJ Lagway, and I think of Dylan Raiola. Out of those four guys, and feel free to add in another one if you want, of guys that are sort of projected to take a big jump this year. Who do you like the best out of that group? And I guess how much of that has to do with the skill set you believe in versus the system that they're in?
Can you run through is it Lagway, Manning, Sellers,
And
Raiola?
yep. If there's anybody else
Okay.
you want to throw in there too, that we haven't really seen a full proven track record yet, but we're projecting a little bit on.
I think it's those four for the most part. The other one I would maybe throw in there is Dante Moore at Oregon because I'm just really intrigued to see what he does out there
I think you got to go to Washington. Oh,
with Damon.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree, but
I think I don't know, man. I'm telling you, I like you guys gonna be pretty good.
yeah, I agree. I agree, but I mean of those four, and even just kind of throwing Dante in there too. I think just true traits alone at the very top, it's Arch and DJ. Like And Dylan's right there with Lenoris, in my opinion. I think where you're picking and choosing with Dylan and Lenoris is I think a lot like has a lot more upside as a runner and has like a little more just general body athleticism. But Dylan's much further along as a
He's been
passer.
more dynamic than Lagway too, in my opinion.
Yes, and that's where I'm at right now. And again, like I know people around here, like I think it's become this like weird, like they've pushed DJ Lagway and Dylan Raiola against each other, and me saying DJ over Dylan might ruffle some feathers. Again, I saw DJ from high since he was like in eighth grade. Like I've watched him his entire high school career. Like I am so in on that long term potential. The shoulder thing this spring really bothered me. I didn't love. I think long term it may be better for him. It sounds like the family has a plan in place for and the school has a plan for him. They just wanted to rest him so he could fully heal. But it did bother me a little bit. But yeah, I mean, as a thrower, he's got all of the upside in the world. He's like got that physical running style you look for, can create with his legs, can produce at a very, very high level, and is much further along than I think people think. Like that's where I'm at with these four. Arch is the best in rhythm, the best processor of these four. DJ has probably the best long-term upside. Right now just a thrower of the football. I think Dylan Raiola is the best of the four. And in terms of like, okay, well, what the heck could this guy be, with, two significant steps forward, it's Lenora Sellers, because Lenoris puts it together this year and then lands in a spot in the NFL where, he's got a good developer. I mean, Lenoris is like, I think he's the one where like the untapped potential for me is really, really intriguing. But yeah, right now I think it's Arch and DJ at the top, Dylan right there, and then Lenoris probably four, just because of the four, I think Lenoris is the most raw right now.
Of what you know about these two quarterbacks, you take Altmaier or Mendoza?
You love Mendoza.
I don't love him. I'm interested in the transition from Cal because I think they had a good staff.
Yeah.
I think at the college level, if you're looking for a college quarterback, it's Altmaier. But if you're looking for an NFL quarterback, it's Mendoza.
And he's 6'5". He's like 220.
He's
Mendoza.
a tank. He's a tank.
Yeah.
You guys know where he's from, right? Like he's like, I don't know how Miami let him leave the city.
Yeah, he's from Christopher Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they let him leave the city.
Cal was his only major offer, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's
from.
He was a Ivy League guy until Cal came in late. That's I'm thinking of the right guy.
That's pretty much what it was. Yeah.
That's wild.
Tim, you have a couple sleepers in the Big Ten. I want to get out ahead of this because I don't. June and July is when we start having these conversations. I kind of want to get out ahead so we don't have revisionist history. Are there some teams that you think, man, I kind of like how they put together the roster, flying under the radar a little bit, that you like maybe more than some of the national prognosticators?
Yeah.
I'll give you an eye roll because they always come up, but I do like what he's built. And I get it because they were the hot topic last year. Rutgers, to me, are they like the Miami's back eye roll sleeper team, or do you think they're a legit dark horse?
I'm not as well versed on this coming year's Rutgers team as I was on last year's team. It wouldn't surprise me if we were a year ahead on the like, oh, this could be the this could be the year Rutgers kind of takes a step forward. But
they got
I think, in all honesty, they just got bit by the injury bug. Like they just had guys fall through fall camp and into September, like where it was October and it was like, oh, these guys just aren't healthy enough. Like that defense was just stripped. But
what about Minnesota?
That wouldn't surprise me. Minnesota's the one. Minnesota's the one for me where I'm like,
that's my pick too.
Yeah, the other week y'all had that discussion of like who's that like fourth team in the Big Ten. It kind of wouldn't surprise me if Minnesota makes that run and puts himself in that contention. I like what they've built. I think Coy Parrish is like he's not Caleb Downs, but I think he's one of the better DBs in the country, and I think they're going to
They
have him
do
playing
a
both
good
ways.
job with DBs too, man. And now that
Yeah,
Danny
and he's a rising tide type player, like a rising tide that lifts everybody up. A rising, I don't even know how that phrase goes, but he's that type of guy that can lift everybody else up. I like Darius Taylor at the running back position. Like I like what they've done. I like the roster. I think receivers probably my only question for them. I think they need to hit on some of including Malachi Coleman. I think they need to hit on some of these guys they brought in.
Incidentally missed
They
the
did bring
rest of
in.
the spring.
Wait, say that again.
Yeah, they had to shut Malachi down in the spring.
Oof. That's not great.
No, that's
Yeah.
not.
So if you like Minnesota, you are a little unsure on Rutgers, but you think if they're
I got another one.
Oh, go ahead.
You got one?
No, go ahead.
What do you think about UCLA?
Yeah, I don't know if UCLA makes the big jump this year, but I think they probably get a bowl game at the very least. I think they win 7-8. Like I think they especially down the stretch because they last year they came on strong by the end of the season. Like it was one of those things where okay, early in the year it's like oh everyone's going to beat up on this team, and then by the end of the year it was like oh they're pushing some teams, and then I think that's going to happen this year too, and I think that's going to be elevated by the fact that I think as Nico gets his feet under him and as Nico gets more comfortable, by November it's like okay, well Nico is the best quarterback in some of these games. They're like he's the best player on the field in some of these games, and just like I think Dylan's going to be come November in some of these games. Like that's a quarterback is ultimately the position you look at, and I like what UCLA has done in addressing some of their needs and building up that roster to a point where they can compete in the Big Ten. Again, they're not gonna they're not push. I don't think they're pushing for that fourth spot in the Big Ten or anything. But yeah, I mean, 7-8 games is very much on the table. 7-8 wins is on the table for them.
I need somebody. This is a black couch moment, right? That we're in the tree of trust. I can just admit things freely. I'm traumatized about being in Pasadena, having been benched there. I hate the stadium. So that's part of me not wanting UCLA to be good. But the other thing is I kind of want the Nico thing to fall. I want them to fall on their faces over how it was handled. And so anytime I'm being kind of ill-willed and petty, like karma catches up with me and I'm like, wow, these guys are going to be good. And I got to go to that game on the road. I'm like, don't be good. No, anyway, I got that off my chest now. It's personal.
You feel better?
Yeah, I do. Let me give you another. Let's go to the other quarterback down the street, just across the street from the gated community of Watts. How you feel about Maivia and Lincoln Riley? They've done a really good job. He's recruiting his tail off in 2026, and it's bugging me that we're kind of leaving him for dead. SC seems dangerous to me, even with all the portal talent that left. He restocked it seemingly in a hurry.
He did. My concern with USC this year is the skill positions.
Okay.
They've done a good job.
You can't lose a Branch and a Robinson and
right. The thing is, it wasn't just Branson Robinson. It was Kyron Ware Hudson. Like that, they got decimated the running back room through just guys graduating and moving on. Like that been the thing with Lincoln Riley, even dating back to Oklahoma. Is he always had good quarterback play, but they also had like talented players around, like future NFL talent around him. And I see future NFL talent on like the offensive line, but like the room just isn't what it was, and the wide receiver room isn't what it was. I'm not super like encouraged by the running back room. I mean, Quentin Joyner transferred out too. Like that was their spark plug at one point, and so that's my concern with them. I think the defense is going to take a significant step forward. I think they've done a really good job addressing their needs there. But yeah, my concern and what's keeping me hesitant, because I do think a full offseason, just like a full offseason between Dana Holgerson and Dylan Raiola would be good. I think a full offseason of Jaden and Lincoln Riley, and where Jaden's okay, I'm QB1, I'm the guy. I think that's going to be beneficial for both parties. But I mean, of the quarterbacks Lincoln's had over the years, Jaden's the second. Where would you rank him? Like Miller Moss is probably the worst, and then he's right above Miller Moss, arguably.
He's either worst or second worst.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's any question about that.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, even again, Oklahoma, like Caleb Williams had, NFL receiver, like a couple NFL, like future NFL type guys throwing to. He was throwing to. Kyler had the same. Baker had the same. Like those, Jalen Hurts had the same. Like, I don't love the skill
How
positions.
you
And
feel
maybe
about
I'm missing somebody. Maybe I'm just.
Spencer Rattler? Maybe we don't. If you don't like Spencer Rattler,
But I saw Spencer Rattler, especially at the college level, was a really good throw over the football. Like I think it just ultimately came down to you just had a much better guy in Caleb Williams on the bench.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, okay, yeah,
Coincidentally, both those guys are on pro rosters.
Yeah, no, it's
right,
fair.
and one was the top pick, so ain't bad.
right, yeah. Like okay, like I'll say this. Like I think Jacoby Lane is probably. I did forget Jacoby Lane's still there, but Jacoby Lane like is a guy that I know NFL teams are like this could be wide receiver one next year, and that's great. But and like it's like Corey Sims, the freshman that Nebraska was battling for last cycle. Like that's the guy. He's like on the 2D, right? Like I just don't love the depth right now at receiver compared to previous years.
Okay, so Tim, let me ask you this because we were talking about kind of the pecking order of things in the Big Ten this year. We've left out some teams that I think are. I mean, we keep forgetting about Iowa. Don't really know what.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got Iowa.
I like Gronkowski. I'm curious to see the jump.
I want to see. I want to hear your thoughts between Iowa, Washington, Michigan State, and Wisconsin. Who do you think out of that group are you most confident in based on what you saw last year and what they've got going into this year?
Washington.
I like
Washington.
I
Damon Williams, Denzel Boston, like Jed
Damon
Fish
Williams
is just
is
a good football coach.
Listen to what I'm telling you. He's a stud.
Mhm.
That little dude is good.
He's little. He's little.
Yeah.
He's little.
Yeah. Have y'all watched Denzel Boston?
I take Damon over or Dante Moore.
Yeah, I don't hate it. Like I'm very excited to see what Dante does at Oregon. I love Dante, and
I'm hoping I'm dead right about that because if he's good,
might have to eat some crow.
Well, I haven't hated on him.
No.
I don't want to see Oregon.
Yeah.
I give me a transition here, man. Lanning's momentum is really wearing me out.
No, Dante's fun. I saw him in 7-on-7 a couple times, and I kept telling like I used to tell like national evaluators who were like, I just don't love the frame. I don't love this. I was like, go stand behind him in 7-on-7. He's the most accurate quarterback I've ever been around. The ball placement and the touch he throws with is incredible. And from what I'm hearing from like again the Oregon side of things, how he was practicing in the spring. Like he's back to that form. Like UCLA was a bit of like I didn't get the decision going to UCLA in the first place. I like the decision to go to Oregon, sit for a year, develop. He's going to be good, man. Like I'm just kind of in on Dante Moore. Like the Big Ten's going to be the quarterback division this year. I think it's going to be the division. Like yeah,
I'd like to think we're probably one of the few that have spent like 2 months finding new ways to break down the quarterback play. Like we've been doing this since February.
Yeah.
Because Tim, I agree with you. Like the quarterback play could be really good, and I'm trying to figure out where Nebraska's going to break ground if they're going to make that move. Like we need Maivea to not be good. You need Gronkowski to not be good.
Just struggle with the transition. Yeah.
If Dante Moore's or if he's good, like I like Minnesota's quarterback. I like Rutgers at the quarterback spot. Unfortunately, I like UCLA's talent at the court. They're going to figure out a way to play to his strengths, right? So I'm not saying he's going to be Jalen Hurts. I'm just like the quarterback,
and that's the thing, like the
quarterback spot in the middle of the big. I need a paper towel over what's happening in Washington. Like I think the quarterback as a conference, the quarterback position is at a high level.
Okay, let me before you answer there, Tim. So you ask where Nebraska is going to break ground, though, right? So out of those guys, there's a lot of guys that we like. There's a lot of guys that have been productive at either other places or where they're at. But what we're really talking about here is that Dylan has the talent to outperform most, if not all, those guys, right? Like that's where at the quarterback spot, at least we say, hey, if the
and I'm not projecting he'll be better. I'm just saying we better understand full well what we're dealing with when we project quarterback play in this league. If Dylan is good and he surpasses these guys, that would be. It's not like beating me out or
No,
you or
right.
Shane. Like, I
You're
mean,
beating out real dudes.
these are real dudes.
Yeah,
But
it's not like being the best, like one of the top 5 quarterbacks in like 2013 Big Ten. You know, it's being one of the best quarterbacks in a division that's probably going to produce 6 to 7, maybe more like NFL quarterbacks potentially. Like just on physical. I mean, okay, again, there's so many different ways you could look at it. Like if you just wanted to win a college game and you had your pick of any Big Ten quarterback, I think there's a few names you potentially take over Dylan Raiola right now. But if you're looking at, okay, who can I take and over the next 2 years develop and I think is going to be the best at the end of these 2 years, I think the only quarterback outside of Dylan in the conference you would maybe take is Nico.
Yeah.
Just off physical tools alone, off physical traits alone. But I think Julian Sain's going to be really good. I think, but
We don't
that's
talk
the thing.
about
Like
we just
we haven't
assume
even talked
whoever
about
takes
Sain.
snaps in Columbus
it's
is going to be
fine.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I think Sain's going to be good. I think Dante, but I think Sain and Dante Moore are going to be guys where it's like, okay, they're effective college quarterbacks. They're getting the ball like out accurately and then timing. But this year, I don't know if either of those guys are going to be okay. They're elevating the team level good. I could see Dylan taking that step forward just because of the experience he had. Where okay, come October, November, it's like, oh, Dylan's the one that's elevating this team forward. Like, okay, would it surprise you because you brought up Gronkowski? Would it surprise you if come that Nebraska Iowa game, Dylan is like the significant, like regarded as a significantly better quarterback?
No, that would not surprise me.
I do think he's better than most, but it's not Gronkowski's physical talents. He's a winner. And
Yes.
you're putting him in a culture where it's going to be tailor-made to how he plays. He just makes plays. Now,
Yeah.
I don't
And
know
that's like,
I don't
yeah.
know about comparing it to like Big Ten talent, but from a mental makeup standpoint, oh shoot, he's right there with what they need.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, we could go into that game, and Iowa could still come out and win that game because it's like, okay, they've got now a non factor at quarterback, and they could still win that game. But just purely talking QB play,
Yeah.
I mean, it would not surprise me one bit if Dylan is like regarded as like significantly better come that Iowa Nebraska game.
I had to be honest, right? And that's why I don't like Sellers as much because you use the term pure QB play. I don't mean to hate on athleticism and playmaking, but I do like being on schedule in crunch time and rhythm.
You're projecting a lot with Sellers.
It just takes so much for me to get there in my head, but it's not a direct comparison of what they have versus what we have. I'm just saying, like, I'm not always enamored with the playmaking style, even though
you want the ability to.
I want
you don't have to
playmaker.
rely on it.
Yeah,
right?
like it's just too hard games like that.
Because if you're relying on it, then it's a little less predictable in terms of how you can score
a little
points,
too
right?
boom or busty for me.
I mean, there's a lot of Martinez there.
Yes.
Yes. That's the Taylor Martinez offense is really boom or bust. Or it's like, hey, we can't stay on schedule. We can't do a drive, but he may bust one out for 80 anytime we.
Yeah, I don't want to see a scramble for a 4-yard loss and then be off schedule. You know what I mean? But then wait for the 70-yard run.
Right.
That's just,
like you mentioned. Yeah, you mentioned we talked about those 4 quarterbacks at the top. Like, that's the thing with those other 3 compared to Sellers. All of those guys have proven they can play within the structure of the offense, can take the layups, can do those things, and I think that's why I trusted those 3 over Sellers right now, and why specifically I think with Arch and Dylan, it's like, okay, this is what you really like. Like, DJ does some of that stuff really well. What really helped DJ was playing his senior year or junior and senior year in essentially a spread offense system that allowed him to take some of those layups and have a playmaker in a Jermaine Bishop who just committed to Texas, who recently named a 5-star player. Having a guy like that where he could just be like, okay, I'm just going to dump it off to you and you do something after the catch. He didn't have to go and kind of do everything himself. He had that player that helped DJ's development a lot. Dylan, that's just who he is. Dylan is a guy that is going to take the layups, has the ability to elevate, and that's the thing with all 3 of those guys too. They have the ability to make those plays and put the team on their back when they need to, but they take the layups. They're comfortable taking the layups, and they can play within structure.
That's the gimmies. I'm talking about layups.
Gotta take the gimmies.
I might go from gimmies to layups, TV, because we're speaking. I'm just telling you, though, physically, like as a quarterback, Mendoza's a lot more gifted than O'Rourke. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
like,
That's the wild card. That's the wild card in all of this. He's the one where, like, I don't know about the rest of the roster. Like, Indiana is doing this whole thing where it's like we're rebuilding through the transfer portal and the high school and we're developing. We'll see how it goes this year. I counted him out last year. We'll see how it goes this year. But yeah, like Mendoza is that, like, Mendoza's that guy, man. Like,
he's more of a quarterback than a guy that we saw shred the Big Ten last year.
Yeah. I'm not the first one saying this. I know, like, national evaluators are like he's kind of like the guy they're starting to crush on a little bit. Fernando Mendoza could be a first-round quarterback in 26. Like, that, like, would not surprise.
Cut it out.
It could happen. Like, it's the traits, it's the tools, it's everything. Like, yeah.
Hey, let me get you out of this. Mendoza or Mateer?
Ooh.
Oh, don't do that. I don't want Oklahoma good.
No, but this
You know my answer.
It's Mendoza. I mean, long term, it's Mendoza. Like, it's Mateer for the college level, but long term, it's Mendoza.
Gotcha.
I'm just not a Mateer guy.
Too much of the what I don't like.
Yeah, and also just a lot of pedestrian numbers against good teams.
Yeah, I'm wondering how that's going to translate to the SEC. I do think like Oklahoma. I'm sorry to hold up longer than.
But listen, again, this whole digital thing is a blessing. We do what we want to do. And
the thing I've been thinking about this with. I've been thinking about this with Oklahoma recently. Like, a lot of people are giving them credit for what they've done this offseason to try and take that step forward. But I really think they're taking a gamble on Mateer because it's a significant step forward in just play. And like, yeah, it helps that he's comfortable with the offense. It helps that it's Arbuckle's offense. There's not a whole lot that he's missing. He's going to have a talented group of receivers to throw to. But it's a big change in who he's playing. He's never faced a Colin Simmons or an Anthony Hill. He's never seen a Dylan Stewart. He's not seen these kind of guys before. He's going to feed those type of guys every single week. And then Jaden Ott, like, I just didn't. I understand wanting to spend up for an experienced quarterback or running back and getting a guy that can tilt the rock. Citing this guy has more carries and more like production than anyone else. The whole name of the game right now is finding quarterbacks without tread on their tires, not the ones with the most tread on their tires. Like, I think Ott can be good, and I think Ott can be a productive SEC quarterback or SEC running back. But to just be like, oh, well, he's got the most experience, he's got the most this and that, like, it's going to just immediately translate. I don't know. And the culture's intact. I think the defense is going to be solid, but that schedule's so difficult that, you know, you lose a couple of games. Like, I could see that team falling apart mid-season just because it's like, okay, well, Venables is just sitting on a hot seat at this point. And I'm not as in on Oklahoma or like in on this hype train like other people are. And it comes down to just, I still don't think they're SEC ready.
Yeah, there's not a lot of Portland States and San Jose States on the roster this year, or on the schedule this year for Oklahoma.
Are you sure?
Tim, appreciate the time as always. Great stuff. Love talking to you. Appreciate you joining us. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, TV.
Of course, talk next week. Appreciate y'all.